Hello, and thank you for joining again this week. We're excited to be back. I'm here with Diptanshu and Madhav, two of our AI experts, uh, to help us understand a bit more about what's challenging about securing AIs, what's different, and what things are new for us as security administrators. So, welcome, guys.
Thanks,
Hello,
Jamison.
Jamison. Yeah.
So today we're going to cover a topic that seems to be oddly the new buzz, since AI is not that old of a buzz. It's within the Gen AI world. It's all about agents. This seems to be what everybody talks about now is just agents, agents, agents. And so I thought we'd start maybe just with a little bit of a definition. Is what are they? What is an agent, and what is it used for?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can start. First of all, Jameson, thanks for having us over here. So let me start with like the basic definition of an AI agent. So they're not just chatbots. They're systems which can perceive environment, make decisions, and take action towards goals. So that's like in a layman's term, that's the basic terminology around AI agents. So you can automate tasks around them. They would be able to access tools, APIs, applications, and they also can be used for monitoring workflows, automating workflows, and monitoring systems.
So maybe in a way, sort of the hands of AI in a way, right? That is
Yes.
that kind of a
Getting really
really,
close. Getting
yeah,
really
really
close.
close.
Yeah, because your LLM is now powered with tool calling, right? If you
Yeah.
can call tools, that's a pretty significant power for an LLM to have. So
Okay.
performing actions directly in your command line, uh, making clicks, making edits to your files with and without your permission. I
Mm.
think we'll come to that. But all in all, if you empower an LLM with tool calling ability, it gets pretty close to giving AI hands.
I see.
Yeah.
So this is the action portion, I guess, of
Yeah,
the LLM.
yes.
Okay.
And as
So
the
that seems to open in it.
yeah,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Madhav.
As Anshu mentioned, you want to do it in a controlled simulated environment.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I suspect attackers all over the world are doing this in a controlled simulated environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this seems to open an entirely new world to us of understanding how do we put security controls on the agent, um, right? I mean, we've talked a little bit about data ingress and egress from an LLM situation to kind of keep the well clean, and the data sets and the models aligned. But now we have something that's capable of these API actions and various other tool uses to interact with external systems now, right? Uh,
Mm.
how do we secure that now? Because it seems to me it could become a form of misuse inside the enterprise.
Yeah. So what we're talking about really is securing AI agents, right? So
Hmm.
and it as we've like covered a bit of it like in our previous LinkedIn live sessions as well. So it goes beyond model security, right? So like when we talked about input guarding, output guarding, those principles still apply to these agents. Uh, well, you have prompt injections or malicious instructions which are being sent in the form of input prompts, and they can also hijack the agents, right? And then when it comes to output guarding, you want to stop agents from leaking sensitive information, or maybe like stopping them from taking any sort of unsafe action. So those two fundamental security principles still like govern your AI agents.
I see. So help me understand just a little bit architecturally, guys, right? Is the agent reside within my traditional LLM stack, or does that reside somewhere else in the network? Is it like a spawn of the LLM?
Yeah. So in order to make an agent like or an LLM tool call, right? All you need to do is to provide it with some instructions.
Mm.
These can look like execute so and so instruction in my command line,
Mm.
perform logins, add details, invoke APIs, right? Anything that is available through code, the agent can pretty much simulate it in its environment. And what happens as a result of this is that security challenges start arising, like we just spoke about. Now, these security challenges, for example, let's suppose you have an email agent that is managing your personal email for you. Now, if you empower that agent to be able to read all your emails and respond to all your emails, there are certain edge scenarios that can 100% arise. These can look like sending unsolicited, uninvoked emails to some of your peers, using language that is not in your tone. So these are just some examples where agents can go haywire, and it's very easy to protect them. It's a tough problem to protect them, but it's very easy for them to go haywire.
Yeah, I could see the chance for misuse or even unintentional misuse.
Unintentional
right?
misuse
If
of
it's got access. Yeah. So, and so I suppose we're probably going to begin to see agents first in like what maybe inbox assistants and sort of like personal assistant, low level task, help me book travel, help me, right? Is that sort of the ways we will begin to see them in the, let's call it the mundane world first, before we start to get into really cool uses of them? Is that a place where people might see an agent?
Yeah, I would assume B2B use cases will come up where you have enterprises empowering their employees through some low-level tasks. But as we move ahead, these are also going to become more B2C or direct to the consumer tasks. We already have an example of this in Cursor and coding agents. So it's slightly a tricky issue over there. Over there as well, you have like an allow list and a block list, ensuring which commands you may or may not execute. So let's suppose you give sudo rights to every possible command. Then again, it's a tricky situation. You leave yourself vulnerable to all of this. So Cursor is one D2C application of a coding agent where we're already seeing that we want to protect most of the commands, and we want the agent to ask us for permission. There should be a human in the loop component, as we've spoken about in previous sessions as well. So it should ask you for permission before making a tool call, before executing an instruction. It's very important.
I see. So what I see here initially, like, and I just want to explore this, before we get into more details, is, today, at least, as someone who's pen tested and everything else, I seldom attack the product. I attack the person who configured the product, right? I learn what their tendencies were and how they configured it or didn't configure it, misconfigured it. And it seems to me like agents open a whole new world of unintentional circumstances because of misconfiguration or under configuration. Like when you said, if you give it the ability to sudo lots of commands or anything, well, I mean, you
Absolutely.
just created a root. You give a root agent, right? And to me, that seems that this plays back into sort of human laziness and policy. Like, how do we properly follow our steps to make sure we have configured that?
Yeah. So a good spec goes a long way. Making sure that your environment has verifiable steps goes a long way in ensuring that your agent has good performance. At every iteration, you need to give good verification feedback to the agent that you're on the right track, you're doing a good job. And just making sure you have a strong, strengthened, secure sandbox environment also goes a long way in agent testing before you actually deploy it out in the world.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit then, shifting back to our kind of mainline conversation, is what sort of external controls can I use? Maybe I have or don't have as much control over my developers that are building the agents, and I'm hoping they're following standards and everything else. But what if they're not? What can I, as looking at the company's risk profile overall, how can I influence that with some sort of tool or guardrail or control around it?
Yeah, I think that goes back to tying agents into existing governance platforms, right? So you have like role-based access, and we talked about like some sort of policy management around agents as well. So when we are talking about B2B, Madhav just mentioned about B2B enterprises, right? So where you would be automating a lot of workflows. So how do we ensure that the context that you're feeding to those agents and how they're like planning their next set of sequences or actions are verifiable? And where when you have like AI firewall, like, or guardrails, which can like uh, be sort of your an agentic AI security framework or a solution around like taking context of whatever is being fed to those AI agents, and then ensuring that okay, your input and output are like verifiable and like safe, and they're in coherence with the policies which are being set by those B2B platforms.
Right. Because I guess I suppose that the agent, maybe not itself, but through the LLM, it is possible to face some sort of skew or drift as well, right? The reason we have the guardrails in the first place is that we might program a set of morals into the LLM, but they'll drift over time,
Yeah.
right? They
Yes.
can, you know, and so we want to hold them in place by an external source that can't drift.
Yeah.
And so the same thing probably applies to an agent, right? Because it's really just the LLM with an action.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
we call that.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Madhav?
that's officially called task drift in the agent space.
Okay.
So you need to ensure that your agent hasn't strayed too far away from the intended task that you decided or assigned to the LLM.
Okay, that's interesting. It becomes more and more and more like raising children.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to keep them on task, and
Yeah, the amount of like monitoring you need to do consistently to ensure that it hasn't gone off track, it's not doing something wrong, is incredible right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think what's so we don't have really good data for tool calling at the moment. It's getting better and better with every passing day, but it's not quite there, at least right now. That's because tying the loop completely, ensuring that the agent gets good feedback, is a tough problem. Humans usually want the task executed, but don't want to spend the time giving feedback to the LLM. As a result,
Right.
what happens is you have half-baked data, right?
Yeah.
And your agent is not really governed. It's not really doesn't know the entire life history of that tool call.
Right.
So it's made that tool call, but it doesn't know what to expect as output. So if you don't give it good feedback, then you're leading it astray, essentially.
I see. Right. So this is just like training a dog. You got to give it feedback that you've performed the task correctly,
Exactly.
and this is good, right?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting component for sure. I think it kind of leads me to my next question about agents. Is like, it seems to me like this might be the perfect red teaming tool. Right, is to build agents that would allow me to use my LLM to either test my own security of the LLM or other LLMs, but also generally, right? If I can give it access to a series of tools, those tools are indeterminate, right? Like whatever tool I decided it has access to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So red teaming's picking up a lot, especially in the agentic realm. We are starting to simulate multi-turn conversations. These are long, extremely long context multi-turn conversations where you need to ensure throughout the conversation that the agent has stayed in its place or executed the task faithfully. So red teaming is essentially uncovering all these vulnerabilities that can come up. And especially with multi-turn attacks, I think we're seeing even the best models, like the leading models by OpenAI and Anthropic, you can jailbreak them more than 50% of the time through these attacks. That's a cause of concern. 50% of the workflows that I deploy or use my agents for can be jailbroken, that's a pretty damning statement. So
Yeah, that's a pretty bad ratio. Those are bad
that's a
odds.
pretty bad ratio, yes.
Yeah.
So we're already seeing that in some of the results that we are performing internally, that they can't seem to keep up with long context or long conversations. They falter in multi-turn conversations because, again, goes back to the lack of data that we have for each and every one of these things.
And is that lack of data just newness, Madhav, or is that maybe tooling problems where we're not gathering the data?
Yes, both. So lack of an external verifiable signal, also lack of data on the particular task that you want to do. Because, I mean, people have been using emails for, I would say, 20 plus years now, but nobody's measured everything that you do on your email, recorded that into some sort of a signal or some sort of data, and fed that back to an agent. It's only now that people are recording step by step, what do humans do when they log into their email, what do they click, they first open their unread emails, for example, how do they differentiate between spam or not spam. All of these steps are only slowly getting automated.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's important to note that, like, I mean, what Madhav was just talking about, right? So the task specification is kind of crucial for an AI agent. Because an AI agent is in this, like, it's gathering inputs from its environment. We call that like the sensing phase, right? So it's gathering inputs in the form of text, data, whatever API calls, and then it's trying to think about that, right? Like use reasoning tool chains, LLM, planning algorithms, and all of that, and then take steps, right? So it's important that, like, I mean, you are trying to and there is no specific, I would say, like a specific criteria or a specific way of defining those steps, right? Like, I mean, it varies from one human to another human. Like, okay, like you can maybe say like a high level goal, like, okay, scan all the emails and like maybe reorganize my schedule based on all the emails, but like the constraints and like what is the exact specification of the task needs to be still well defined. And that is why, where like Madhav was just talking about, right, like where people are just trying to record each and every step in whatever they are trying to do so that they can give that specification as concise as what to, like, so that can enable those agents to be running and like, okay, making those things easier for you.
Yeah, I can see how telling an agent to look at my inbox, reschedule my schedule based on meetings and proposed meetings and whatever could be catastrophic. I don't know about you guys. I get about 120 outreaches a day from BDRs trying to book meetings with me. So I end up talking to all these other people and not talking to you.
Yeah.
And just to add another point there, I think what's more exciting for AI going forward is these extremely long tasks. So OpenAI showed that you could do an 8-hour long task, like an LLM. If you leave it on a math problem, it goes on in a single iteration while performing that task for 8 hours consistently. 8 hours is incredible. That means you've offloaded a person's day-to-day job, right? Like essentially a day job. So this 8 hours is going to get longer. But now, Jamison, the question to ask is, how much data are you getting for those 8 hours? How are you verifying that during those 8 hours the agent has not gone astray, even during 1 minute?
Yeah, it comes back with something completely useless, right?
Exactly. Verification at every step, that is incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah. So I think I have two more things to get to, but I do want that. It gives me a question here because I do these dinners all the time, all over the world, and talk to people who are implementing AI. And you really, Madhav, I think you've uncovered a piece that those of us even close to the trench already have really started to understand. But it seems there's a divide, right, between the executive teams and technologists. That's not new. But in this particular case, the divide is quite large. And in that what you've really pointed out is the promise of AI is still true. This better automation, efficiency, all these incredible things, but it's not easy.
It's not easy.
And the executive team says implement AI and fire 2,000 people. Right. And the truth is you're going to need 2,000 more people to train the AI to do that job. Is that, I mean, reasonably accurate?
That's very accurate. And another component that's extremely important in the loop is DLP. You need to
Right.
ensure that your agents are calling the right sources, um, everything that they've been authenticated for, authorized for. Extremely important.
Right. So now we have a new DLP problem, as opposed to just traditional DLPs. But now maybe even like I'm going to add a nuance here, and you can tell me if I'm off base. But knowing that the AI can both receive and send coded material, meaning I can put things in an image or in a video that are not perceivable to human beings.
Yeah.
Like I could even have DLP leaks from a picture it generated, because inside of it contains data that I cannot perceive. Like that's like a whole new level of DLP now, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's a huge
yeah, this seems like an industry of its own.
Yes. So we're seeing this trend. There are companies that are now securing AI agents that just work on your email. There are companies that are securing agents just for financial use cases. So each vertical is sort of exploding, and securing each vertical is sort of exploding into its own industry.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not a one for all solution. It's bespoke solutions per vertical that are now picking up.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think this DLP problem is really great. So I had the pleasure last night of interacting with somebody from a large beverage manufacturer, and they have an AI system that allows you to design your own labels for your drink, which is pretty cool. I didn't know this existed, but they have all these constraints. So obviously they can't let you put Spider-Man on the drink, right? That's a copyrighted, this is intellectual property, right? And so he went through a whole process of how they scrub and do whatever, which we won't get into, but there's a piece in here that I really wanted to click on, because I think this goes to our DLP question and ties into some things we've talked about weeks before. He said that they bought several sets of sanitized data that were not supposed to contain, right? You couldn't go in and say, make me Spider-Man. It would say, I can't do that. But he wrote a prompt that was everything about Spider-Man without saying that, even without the colors, without the reference to the web. And not only did it create an image that looked very much like Spider-Man, it had the Marvel logo in it. So it didn't spontaneously create a Spider-Man. It actually was not sanitized data. And so I think it's fascinating. To me, this created a wrinkle that I had not considered, I guess, was the deceptiveness of human beings to feed us data that is not actually sanitized, right, in these ways. And think about the issue. To me, for this is why it triggered on DLP. The issue with this, as a company, we purchased the sanitized data to do our project in good faith, believing we're not going to find. And then how do we find that if we're not crafty enough to think of what's in that data?
Yeah, absolutely, Jamison. I think it's a huge issue, especially in the text to image, text to video realm that you were just talking about, generating labels from essentially text.
And that calls for governance structures, right? Like Jamison, you were talking about like this whole can of worms that you open up, right? When you're trying to like have this synthetic data or whatever, like make sure that, okay, humans can be like incredibly deceptive at some like in terms of like sending prompts. So you need like some sort of governance structure around that to see all of that agentic deployment or interactions that you might be having with your AI tools. So it comes down to really like accountability, right? Like, I mean, you have to define who owns and and audits those agentic behavior. Like, and this is back to the verifiability problem, right? Who is owning and who is auditing that agentic behavior? And then does that tie up to that policy alignment of those AI agents?
So this sort of brings us back to the new pressures on GRC and how are they going to align policies, checkpoints, all of that to verify that we're, and in a way, not dissimilar than what we've had for humans that write a paper representing a company. But now we have a whole new sort of world of how that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a great topic this week, guys. I think we could probably keep going about agents for a bit.
Yeah.
And I hope for everybody watching or listening, you can see why agents are a big buzz. Right, as I said, Madhav said I'm close. These are the hands of AI. This allows us to start to do things in the world, create actions and tasks and automations that we didn't have before. And I think the use cases for that become exponential as we start to think about agents on agents and building other agents and avenues, and like it suddenly becomes this very interesting, complicated world of what's possible with those agents. But I do think we have a tick there to data, and maybe if we do another session, maybe we talk about that data, because it seems to me that as often happens in technology, we get out over our skis and we start doing all of these really cool things about what could be possible, and we've really missed the core, right? Which is what are we going to train it with? What does it know? And where do we get that? Can we trust it? Do we not trust it? How do we govern that? How do we input the right kinds of data for training, right? I think that might be a really interesting exploration for folks, because for me, at least, this was a new light last night. I was like, wow, okay, I hadn't thought of that.
No better place than for networking organizations to do this, because during this conversation itself, Jamison and Diptanshu, we've spoken about 2 additional hops during one LLM invocation. One is going to be to your guardrails, and the other to your DLP orchestrator. So you need to ensure that both these steps can be done at ultra low latency over the network. And that is why this is an extremely, extremely important problem to solve for networking X AI companies, and also the traditional foundational AI companies as well.
And that might be another topic for us, Madhav, is we can start to talk about the realities for the network person. We've talked a bit about securing the AI, but I think under here is a couple of pieces we haven't quite clicked on. With agents, we have more API traffic.
Yes.
And this is right. There's two levels. It's agentic API use, but also it's APIs. Some of them are just like APIs humans would use, right? And so now we have a massive amount more coming from basically unknown sources, right? I just know that's the agent. I don't know why I did that. We have the data problem, and then we have this new sort of network. How do we properly configure a network to be an AI network as opposed to an old school network? Because there's new parameters, new ways of load balancing. So those are some good topics for us to consider if you guys are up for a 4th one.
Sure.
Yes.
100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time today, guys. Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to our next session.
All right.